half of the world right now, if men decide to, they can basically exterminate every single woman inside of their nations, and there's not a damn thing women can do about it.
The actual point, like the conclusion that you're making
The
here.
point here is that men being in charge is obviously and clearly they're very benevolent, because at any time they so choose, they can lock all women up. There's nothing they can do about it.
I will not ever agree to the fact that we should appeal to men for our rights. I think that is an inherently misogynistic question. Have to?
Have to.
No.
Okay, well then
that does not mean that I should be grateful to you.
How about just your right to free speech and the fact that it's enforced by men? The patriarchy is the ones giving you that by your own admission.
Listen, so my theory is the way it should be. This is what I think. This is the way that it was.
You're interested in it. I want to know the worldview.
I think you care because like it's your podcast and like I'm kind of ready to move on.
Okay, well, you know what? In your next argument, I'll just say, well, I'm just not very interested.
Okay.
Like,
then I'll just talk about my point.
What does that do?
Well, you're not really letting me talk or like, you know.
I'm just asking you basic questions you refuse to answer.
Okay, so we've got Andrew Wilson here absolutely demolishing a feminist who walked into what she thought would be a friendly debate about patriarchy and women's rights. And guys, watch what happens when he introduces something called forced doctrine, which is basically this idea that men could theoretically take away all women's rights tomorrow, and there's nothing women could physically do to stop it. Now, I know that sounds insane to say out loud, but stay with me, because the way she responds to this it's actually fascinating. She keeps saying rights are inherent and should just exist, but can't explain where they actually come from without appealing to the very male force structure she claims to reject. Like, you're going to watch her argue in circles for almost 20 minutes while Andrew just methodically breaks down every single point. This gets wild. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so I'll give you my definition of patriarchy first. It's a historic definition. It means rule of the father. I often will short phrase this to from the father. Usually it operates around something which is patrilineal lineage rather than matrilineal lineage, though not always. You can have patriarchies where there's matrilineal lineage. You can find this in Judaism and other places like this. When I talk about patriarchy, I'm broadly speaking, at least in modernity and in the last 100 years, about men being in charge of general systems. We could just say men being in charge of general systems, head of the household, head of the family, things like this. My view is that patriarchy is always going to end up being the default, especially the more feminism there is. You'll push more people into the patriarchy role, and here's why. Because of forced doctrine. Forced doctrine is a doctrine which I came up with, which tries to describe a phenomenon which you yourself are going to have to concede is true. That half of the world right now, if men decide to, they can basically exterminate every single woman inside of their nations, and there's not a damn thing women can do about it. We can find this in most of the Middle Eastern nations. We can find this basically anywhere that we look, right? They can't actually do anything about it. Also, when it comes to rights, rights are a social construction, product of the mind. Because of that, they are not inherent. And since this is the case, force is what is the practical applicator. And if men decided to, by force, take away women's rights, women cannot do anything about it. The opposite is not true. If women wanted to take away men's rights and men didn't want to let them, they could not. And because of this forced doctrine application, women's rights all come from men, not inherently from themselves. Therefore, feminism is a lie, complete lie. That's forced doctrine. I don't know if you have anything to say about it.
Well, aside from the fact that that is genuinely a terrifying idea, I think that the idea that men could just take away our rights and wipe us away is why feminism is necessary, is because we are trying to get enough men, I suppose, on our side, if you think about it in terms of like a military occupation, so that that wouldn't happen, because I think that it is possible for men to take away our rights at a blanket pace. But I don't agree with your conclusion based off that premise, though. I don't believe that women inherently don't have rights that it's given to us by men. And the reason why is because I believe that all human beings inherently should have equality and human dignity, which is although I'm not Catholic, it's a term that was very much focused on in my Catholic high school. I went to public school and then Catholic high school. But it's an axiom? About human dignity.
It's just axiomatic.
Yeah, I mean, it's still like important though to me, because I think that because the societies that we have created have necessitated the need or have created the need for laws and for structure in government. And so there are many philosophers that have talked about how important it is to have government, right? But because of the fact that men can take it away does not mean that men thus give to us, right? Like, men are not gods. It is something that is inherent to each of us, that we should have the ability to live and self-govern, have autonomy. And I think the fact that men could take it away actually goes to my point about how a lot of them do, and a lot of them try to take our autonomy and make us feel unsafe and harm us, which you were previously refuting, but actually seems like you agree with me on that it's a possibility for men to do that.
No, it's descriptively true. I'm not giving an ought, I'm giving a descriptive reality.
But because it's a descriptive reality,
the truth is that you appealed to patriarchy.
I have no idea what, I have not said appeal to patriarchy. What are you talking about?
When you said the whole goal is to get more men on our side, you're appealing to a patriarchy.
Well, it's not the whole goal, but is a goal. Yes, I should correct myself.
And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to appeal to the very demographic which can take away your rights at any time, conceding that if you do not have them on your side, you cannot maintain your rights. That is not ever true of men, which is why you'll always end up with a default patriarchy, the more feminists push. I don't know if you're looking at the modern world
it's not
now.
It's the modern world, because it's not necessarily a default.
It's always going to be a default.
But in a lot of tribes, they were very matriarchal, and like women were at the head of the family.
There's never been a matriarchy in the world.
That is not true at all.
You give me one.
Okay, I will look it up for you.
It's going to be an Indian tribe, and I'll refute it. Watch.
Well, indigenous people largely have.
It's going to be an Indian tribe, and I'm going to refute it.
I think you should just use the term indigenous.
I think you should just use the term Indian. I don't see any problem with it at all.
Oh, I think they do.
I don't think so. Indians themselves call themselves Indians often.
Indigenous people in the United States do not call themselves Indians.
Yes, they do. Just like black people call themselves black people, not African American. What are you talking about? Do you think that all black people call themselves African American?
This is a moot point, so I'm not going to even go into this with you.
Well, you're the one who wanted to tell police to say that I had to say Native American instead of Indian.
So basically, I'm pulling up the matriarchs for you. And there are obviously a number of societies that have thrived, and there's a whole document, but in China, in Costa Rica, the Bribri people.
Yeah, name one. Any of them that you think is a matriarchy.
Okay.
A matriarchal society.
They have a society with an estimated 12,000 to 35,000 members. That is a matriarchy. And that is Bribri in Costa Rica. Or you could look at there's a Kenyan tribe, that's Umoja, that are all matriarchies. They have women at the helm that are leading their...
Why the Bribri tribe society is often described as matrilineal. It's not actually a matriarchy. Women are the heads of households responsible for passing down culture and land, but the men have the most important role as the authority officers of the tribe. They are the ones who defend, and they have chiefs too, male chief. That's not a matriarchy.
Well, I found a different article. We could just go back and forth all day.
Yeah, let's look at it.
So the Bribri, so this is the intercontinental cry. Bribri, I don't know if you speak Spanish, but Bribri un matriarcado moderno. So I speak a little bit, I'm not like fully fluent. But anyways, and they're talking about how the clan structure means that tribal lineage is passed down through the mother.
Yeah, matrilineally.
Yes, and also in the home, I know the difference.
But if something is matrilineal, doesn't make it a matriarchy.
I know, but they're saying that women in this article play a primary role in government as well. And
yeah,
people.
but not. But see what you did there? You did a smuggle. They play a primary role in government. That doesn't make it a matriarchy.
But it's a system. Do you know what a matriarchy is, though?
Yeah, it would be women broadly in charge of all of the systems.
It's a system of social structure where they hold a lot of power.
They hold the majority power.
And that's what
and the decisions of the men are at their behest in any...
But that's what the article just said of the Bribri tribe.
No,
I don't know. Again, I just found a different article.
Any matriarchy...
I don't know if I should speak to what's going on.
Any matriarchy that I've ever investigated.
Okay, hold on. Did you catch what just happened there? She literally said the goal of feminism is to get more men on our side. Meaning, she's admitting that women's rights require male approval and protection. And then 2 seconds later, she's arguing that rights are inherent and don't come from men. Like, do you see the contradiction? Andrew sees it immediately. He's saying, look, if men can take your rights away by force, which you yourself admitted earlier, then logically, your rights are being granted and protected by men who choose not to do that. And instead of addressing that point, she pivots to, well, actually, some societies were matriarchal, which is like the most predictable move in the feminist playbook. Watch what happens when Andrew asks her to name one. She pulls up the Bribri tribe in Costa Rica, And guys, this is where it gets good, because Andrew already knows exactly what she's going to find before she even looks it up. He literally says it's going to be an Indian tribe, and I'll refute it. And sure enough, what does the article say? The Bree tribe is matrilineal, meaning lineage passes through the mother, but the men still hold the positions of authority and defense. That's not a matriarchy. That's just a patriarchy with different inheritance rules. And she keeps trying to say, but women play a primary role in government. Okay, a primary role doesn't mean they're in charge. It means they participate. That's not the same thing. This is what Andrew does so well. He doesn't let you smuggle terms. He makes you define what you actually mean. And every time she tries to reframe or dodge, he brings it right back to the central question. If men have the physical force to take away your rights, and they're choosing not to, then aren't they the ones granting you those rights by their benevolence? And she cannot answer that without admitting he's right. She just keeps saying, that's misogynistic to even ask. But asking where rights come from isn't misogynistic. It's philosophy 101. You can't just say they're inherent because I feel like they should be. That's not an argument. That's a wish. And the whole thing about her correcting him for saying Indian instead of Native American, guys, this is peak 2024 leftist deflection. You're losing the debate, so you pivot to tone policing and terminology. Like, who cares? We all know what he meant. But she'd rather argue about that than address the actual point. Let me know in the comments, do you think matriarchal societies have ever actually existed? Or is this just something feminists made up to cope with history?
A matriarchy, we find very quickly that men are in the prominent positions of authority on force, which means that any matriarchy is living at the behest of the men. That's it.
So is your point that men are better then because they have brute force? Or like, what's your point that men should be in charge governmentally?
No, my point is I'm not giving an ought. We have to agree first to a descriptor. The descriptive truth is that it is, in fact, the case that women have to appeal to men for all of their rights, period, by your own admission. That's why you're trying to get them on your side. Because if you don't have them, they can basically cage women up if they wanted to, and there's nothing women could do about it.
Right, but that doesn't mean that men are therefore better or should be in charge. Like, I'm confused. Like, what's the actual point, like the conclusion that you're making here?
The point here is that men being in charge is obviously and clearly they're very benevolent, because at any time they so choose, they can lock all women up. There's nothing they can do about it. And the reverse is not true, which is so interesting. You're literally at the mercy, women are at the mercy globally and always have been, of men. And yet we're monsterized and demonized by feminists. That's what we're literally considered demons by feminists. You did it by your own admission today with your own stats, trying to make us out to be sexually assaulting monsters. Didn't even know the counter stats.
Didn't say that. Never
said
that.
Yeah, that's what it appears to be, though, from the onlooker's perspective.
I feel like you have these generic like talking points that you try to apply to feminists, but I haven't like really been very reactive or calling you names. I'm trying not to. I have, but
you have acted exactly like a feminist today, madame.
Okay, but
I feel like nobody's going to be confused about that at all.
All right.
The whole snobbery.
I'm not insulted by that.
The whole snobbery towards authority. You're going to do what I want. The finger clap thing. You did the whole feminist trope, the entire thing.
Okay.
But what I would like is a refutation here.
Can I speak now?
Can you agree?
I feel like it's my time.
Can
a
you
little
agree
bit.
that it is the case that women have to appeal to men for their rights and not the other way around?
I will not ever agree to the fact that we should appeal to men for our rights. I think that is an inherently misogynistic question. Have to?
Have to.
No. Do not
Okay,
agree.
well then where do rights come from?
They should be inherent to every person, but again, I think I should be able to like lead this. So give me a second, because again, like you've just been a little bit insulting the last few minutes, so I feel like when that happens, it's just like a good change of pace is important. But
well, I do need to keep it on the topic at hand. But
which again, where were we? Can you repeat the question?
Right. So I asked you where rights come from.
Where rights come from, if you can address that.
Okay, but then I get to speak.
Respond.
More.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, but it's on force doctrine and rights.
Respond.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think the fact that we're debating a topic that you came up with is a little bit strange personally, but I was going to say that I think that rights are inherent. I think that they should be related to all people, just like the fact that we are human beings. We shouldn't have to appeal to any person for authority. And again, the fact that men are stronger, bigger, more powerful doesn't mean that they give or take away people's rights. I'm not religious necessarily, but I think if I was, I would probably tell you that I think God is the person that, relates and who gives people their human dignity and rights, but I think it's inherent. I think that we should all have the right to live and be free of violence, and I think that those who offend and try to put people in cages, those are the people that should be jailed. I don't think that that's a blanket statement.
Yeah. So I would just, okay, you keep on saying rights should be inherent. That doesn't tell me anything about where rights come from. Where do rights come from? Where do we ascribe rights?
Well, I think that
ourselves?
you're thinking very United States government centric.
Anywhere. You can pick anywhere on planet. I don't care where you pick.
Okay.
Where are rights coming from?
They are coming from the set of people that are in charge, the government. And to your point, that's the patriarchy. However, I agree.
Okay.
So I concede to that point. However, I'm saying that does not mean that men, since they create the ability to give people rights and take it away, that doesn't mean that men it should be that way. It shouldn't. I don't know if that makes sense.
So men have been guaranteeing your rights the entire time you've been alive?
No, that's definitely not true.
Well, I don't understand. I thought that you just said rights come from the government. The government is the patriarchy. The patriarchy then is giving you rights, right?
Right, but the government isn't inherently the government is influenced by patriarchy, but it's not all men making decisions like in the past it was.
Would you say it's mostly in charge by men?
Yeah, but again, I think that your points that you're making are very misogynistic. I think the point of what you're saying
listen,
is we should be grateful to you.
I think the points you're making are very misandrist. I mean, that doesn't tell us
But
anything.
I don't hate men, so that's not a very good
I don't hate
insult.
women.
Okay, but your question inherently is rooted in the fact that you think that there is male superiority and that men are in charge.
Descriptively, men are stronger than women, yeah? Descriptively.
Yes.
You're not going to argue that point, right?
On average, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, on average. Well, I mean, it's a strong average, though.
Sure.
Yeah, teenage soccer teams are beating, female pro player teams, right?
Sure.
You agree that that's the case? Okay, great. So if that's the case, and we can agree, and you agree that the governments of the world are patriarchal, then you have to concede that the patriarchy is giving you your rights right now.
I will never concede that. And the reason why is because I think that is rooted in the idea that women should be grateful. You're telling me that I should essentially be grateful to you for the fact that I'm not in a cage right now and that someone's not assaulting me as we speak. That does not mean that I should be grateful to you. How about just
your right to free speech and the fact that it's enforced by men? The patriarchy is the ones giving you that by your own admission.
Listen, so my theory is the way it should be. This is what I think. This is the way that it was before we had colonization and all the imperialism and stuff. There's a blanket statement, right? Or there's a blanket right to life, to autonomy, to all these things, right, that are just given to you by the nature of being human. And there are certain entities and people and oppressive regimes that then come in and they try to take those things away from you.
Yeah, now, warring tribe theory.
Well, because they give you those things, or because the government gives you the right to exist now, right, doesn't mean it's a benevolent doesn't mean the patriarchy is benevolent because it is currently giving me these rights and I'm not sitting and trapped in my house like I am in a different country.
What would make it malevolent?
What would make it malevolent?
Yeah.
I think in places I'm
talking about here in the United States, which is a patriarchy by your own admission, giving you rights. What would make it malevolent?
I think that there are a lot of current things that are malevolent, in legislation and things like that are, attacks on bodily autonomy and the overturning, the Dobbs decision or the
But you would
overturning
consider
of Roe v.
your
Wade.
First Amendment a benevolent right, your Third Amendment,
But
your Fifth Amendment.
I think these things are all inherent. I don't understand. Just because it's written by the government doesn't mean that it should inherently be.
It can't be
benevolent.
Listen,
Dude, she literally said, "I will never concede that." Not, "I disagree because." Not, "Here's why you're wrong," just a flat refusal to engage with the logic because she doesn't like where it leads. This is the feminist debate strategy in a nutshell. When you corner them with an uncomfortable truth, they just declare it's misogynistic to even discuss and shut down. Andrew's point here is so simple it's almost boring. If you admit that governments are run by men, and governments grant legal rights, then men are granting you your rights. That's it. That's the whole point. And she can't refute it, so she just refuses to concede. But watch what happens next. She pivots to this idea that rights existed before governments, before force, before civilization. She's saying rights are just inherent to being human. Okay, but how do you have them without enforcement? If you're walking around in a world with no government, and someone stronger decides to kill you and take your stuff, where are your inherent rights then? They evaporate, because rights without enforcement are just suggestions. They're vibes. Andrew's asking her to ground her worldview in reality, and she can't do it without eventually appealing to either God or force, and she's uncomfortable with both. So she keeps saying human dignity like it's a magic phrase that explains everything. But human dignity is just another axiom. It's just, I believe this because I believe this. Andrew's right to call that out. And then she brings up this absolutely insane analogy about how if a man doesn't assault his female friend, that doesn't make him good because not assaulting people should be the standard. Which, okay, fine. But that has nothing to do with the question. Andrew's not saying the patriarchy is morally good because it doesn't enslave women. He's saying it's descriptively true that the patriarchy is what allows women to have rights in the first place. Whether that's good or bad is a separate conversation. She's conflating a descriptive claim with a normative one because she doesn't want to admit the descriptive claim is true. This is what happens when your ideology is built on feelings instead of logic. You can't handle basic hypotheticals. You can't answer where do rights come from without either appealing to God, which she won't do because she's secular, or appealing to force, which she won't do because it proves Andrew's point. So she just loops back to their inherent over and over like a broken record. And guys, I don't know how Andrew keeps his composure here because I would have lost it. She keeps accusing him of being misogynistic for asking basic philosophical questions. Like, asking where rights come from is now misogyny? That's insane. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think she genuinely believes rights are inherent? Or does she know Andrew's right and just can't admit it?
And you can't say it's inherent and the government gives them to us.
No, the government...
That's a contradiction.
The government does, but it doesn't mean anything. Like, we should already have these things. Like, just like if I...
How do you have them? How do you have them absent a government?
Being. You should just be able to walk around and be free.
How? How do you have that without force? How?
I mean,
how is it even possible?
I think you're looking at it through a lens of like imperialism, and I don't think that like force was always necessary. It hasn't always been necessary to conquer other people.
Why do you keep saying I'm looking at it through a lens of? I literally told you my lens of force doctrine, explained it descriptively. It has nothing to do with imperialism. It has to do with this. You're walking around and there's no government. If you're walking around, there's no government. Where do your rights come from then?
Okay, this is just like such a silly question.
Please answer the question.
Okay, so if there's no government and I'm walking around, my right to be alive, my right to find a partner.
Can someone come around and kill you? Can someone come around and kill you?
Yes, but in that case, there have historically always been ways of punishing people who take those away. So the people who take them away are
like
offenders.
Hold on, just let her finish.
A government? Go ahead.
Hold on, Andrew.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The people who take those things away from you, if they don't decide to take it away, it doesn't mean that they're good, right? So like a really horrible example that for a lot of women is true is if I am a woman and I have not had intercourse with anybody and a man is my friend and he decides that he's not going to take my virginity from me, does that mean he is a good person inherently by not assaulting me? No, it doesn't, because that should be the standard, right? And so if someone comes in and they take it away and then they tell me that they can or they can't in the future, right? That's essentially to me what you're saying is just because the government is giving me the right to walk around and have this conversation with you today means that I should be thankful and I should, not be concerned with things, and that you guys are actually benevolent. The patriarchy is benevolent because I'm not in a cage, because I'm not being assaulted.
Yeah, that's not what's being said. But anyway, can you answer my question though? If there's no government, where do your rights come from?
I think we've already been over this. I think you've asked me quite a few times.
You didn't actually answer listen, what you did was
I've already told you human dignity, so.
Well, human dignity, you can't account for dignity in a secular worldview. What is dignity? It's just whatever you think dignity is. So tell me this real quick. You have rights. They're
Okay.
inherent.
Are you talking about legal, moral, or human? Let's omit legal, right? Because I'm talking about in a hypothetical
Literally
society.
any.
Okay, moral and human rights.
Yeah.
And for me, it's
Yeah.
rooted in the philosophical natural law.
Natural
theory.
law is Catholic. You don't believe in Catholicism. You would have to have God to back up natural law.
Okay, but that is what I developed my beliefs around because I used to believe in
No,
God.
that's it. If you don't appeal to God for your natural rights, you're making a naturalist fallacy.
Okay, I believe in
That's a
God.
fallacious argument.
How do you know that I don't believe in God?
Because you told me.
Okay, well, I think this is like a really ridiculous.
Why is it ridiculous? So where do you get your rights from if they're not from God?
Okay, so again, I still subscribe to the human rights theory, which is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. If we're not going to go talk about God or naturalism, right? Which is that every human being has universal, inalienable rights that are fundamental to each person.
Yeah.
And so this is what the UN subscribes to and stuff like that, regardless of whether there is a government in place or not. So is that sufficient to you?
No, that's an axiom. So all you're just saying is, I think we have inherent rights because I think we have inherent rights.
I think we have inherent rights because we are human beings who deserve to be treated with compassion, love, and respect. And I don't think you think that. So
Yeah, but
that's pretty wild.
But the question comes in here. Let's say that a group of people doesn't believe in these inherent human rights, right? They don't believe in them.
I mean, there are definitely groups that have.
Yeah, they just don't believe in these inherent.
But for certain people.
Yeah, they just don't. So what is it that protects those inherent rights for you?
Well, you're right. There is typically like a system in place of
Force?
It's not force per se.
All force, right?
But
name anything that's
but
not
like
force
there's a
that
way to like
protects your rights.
isolate those people.
With
yeah.
what? Force?
I mean, not necessarily. Not
What
every
else could
arrest
you
is
isolate
made
them
through
with
force.
if they don't want to be isolated?
Well, not every arrest is made through force, right? Like they might.
Yeah,
just,
well, actually, all arrests are made through the implicit threat of force. Either you come with me or else, right?
Sure.
So that would be force, right? You would agree with that? The implicit.
Yeah, I mean, just this inherent topic to me is very, just like violent and seems like a moot point. Like, but I mean, I feel like we've talked this through.
No, I haven't talked it through yet.
But you can continue. I mean, I don't really have much else to say
Yeah,
on
I know,
this.
but
I've already like
it's a
clarified.
critique of your worldview so that we can understand who you're appealing to for these so-called rights you believe everybody has. In this case,
Sure.
it sounds like you're banking on force from men to protect your rights.
I'm not
How are
banking
you
on
not?
that.
How are you not banking on the force of men to protect your rights if you say they're inherent, but all these inherent rights require force?
Well, also men is a generalization. I mean, again, there are a lot of people who are currently working to enforce the system of government that we have. It's not just men, but okay.
They all rely on male force, don't they?
I just told you that wasn't true. I mean,
Okay, can you tell me how that's not true? Like
Well-
what agency of government doesn't rely on male force?
No. My point is, it's not all exclusively men. There are men and women and everyone else as well that work to protect people here. Like,
yeah.
like in the army, it's not like if you're using force, right? The army isn't just male troops. So like you're saying male.
Yeah, there's women who aren't allowed in combat for the most part, almost ever, unless it's by accident, who are in the military as paymasters and things like this, but they're not the executors of force. There's not female armies being fielded to protect people's rights.
I'm not super interested in this line of questioning because it just seems like
Why
an
do you
inherently
think I care
misogynistic
if
question.
you're interested in it? I want to know the worldview.
I think you care because like it's your podcast and like I'm kind of ready
Okay,
to
well,
move
you know
on.
what? In your next argument, I'll just say, well, I'm just not very interested.
Okay.
Like,
then I'll
what
just
does that
talk
do?
about my
Like,
points.
what does that do?
Well, you're not really letting me talk or like,
I'm just asking you basic questions. You refuse to answer them.
All right, so let's break down what we just watched because this was a masterclass in how to dismantle feminist talking points. Andrew Wilson came in with one central thesis. Patriarchy is the default. Rights require force to be enforced. And since men have superior physical force, women's rights are granted and protected by men. That's it. That's force doctrine. And this woman spent almost 20 minutes refusing to engage with that premise because she knew if she conceded it, her entire worldview collapses. Instead, she kept retreating to vague appeals to human dignity and inherent rights without ever explaining where those rights come from or how they're protected. Andrew asked her probably 10 times, where do rights come from? And every single time she either dodged, pivoted, or just said they're inherent because they should be. That's not philosophy. That's wishful thinking. And the craziest part? She admitted early on that the goal of feminism is to get men on their side so that men don't take away their rights. which means she knows men could if they wanted to, which means she knows Andrew's right. She just can't say it out loud because it destroys the foundation of modern feminism, which is built on this idea that women are oppressed by patriarchy, when in reality, patriarchy is the only reason women have any legal protections at all. Without male force protecting women's rights, those rights disappear overnight. That's not misogyny, that's reality. And when Andrew pushed her to name a single matriarchal society in human history, she couldn't do it. She tried with the Bree tribe and got immediately debunked. She kept saying women play a primary role. Okay, participation isn't leadership. You can participate in government without being in charge. Andrew didn't let her smuggle definitions. He made her be precise. And every time he did, her argument fell apart. Look, I get that this is uncomfortable for a lot of people to hear. Nobody wants to think about the fact that half the population could theoretically overpower the other half if they decided to. But ignoring that reality doesn't make it go away. And here's the thing Andrew's really getting at. If men are granting women rights by choosing not to use their superior force, then maybe, just maybe, the patriarchy isn't the monster feminists make it out to be. Maybe it's actually been pretty benevolent. Because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be having this conversation. She'd be in a cage. And she knows it. That's why she kept calling his questions misogynistic instead of answering them. This is what feminism does when it's losing. It doesn't engage. It just accuses you of bigotry and shuts down. Andrew won this. It wasn't even close. She walked in thinking she could hold her own and got systematically dismantled, point by point, until all she had left was, "I refuse to concede." That's not an argument. That's surrender with extra steps. Welcome to MB. If you like this breakdown, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to see it, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know, do you think Andrew's forced doctrine theory is accurate? Or do you think there's a way for women to have rights independent of male force? Let me know. Stay sharp. I'll see you in the next one.